Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're joined by 6 of the digital stars who've just partaken in the program that's run by Yahoo 7. And I'll explain who they are. So with me in the studio today, we've got Mark Ryan from Maxus and Courtney Grant from Mediacom. And then on the webcams, we've got Isaac O'Leary, who's was at PhD, but is now actually at Sunbeam, as you'll be able to see from the amount of product he's got behind him in that shot. We've got Cameron Law, who's from Icon Communications. We've got Rory Simmons, who is from Mitchell's. Paula Gretton, who's from Cara. And unfortunately not able to join us today are Mi Chai, who's from Icon, Will Innes from OMD in Wellington, and Sarah Fort from Mindshare in Victoria. So welcome, guys. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I guess the first question, as young people partaking in the industry, and I'll start with you, Courtney, as you're here with me, is what made you get into media? Why did you choose media agencies?
Well, if I'm honest, really, I just fell into media. So I interned at Mediacom about 3 years ago now, and decided I really liked it. I liked the agency, I liked the people, and in particular, I liked digital. So I decided to go for a job there, and I've been there ever since.
Yeah, and so what is it that made you sort of stick with that as opposed to?
I liked that it was really new and interesting all the time. Things were changing, so there was a lot to learn. And yeah, I think one of the big things is the people, and I really liked it, and I thought it was a good fit culturally.
Yeah. Isaac, I think you've got a sort of slightly interesting story about this one.
Yeah, well, actually a little bit of a similar story to Courtney. I started as an intern, but at Clemenger, at a creative agency, and from there I did a lot of social media work, which sort of got me into digital. And so after my internship, I found a job at MEC where I started my career, and sort of accidentally fell into the digital department.
I mean, I guess there's, it strikes me there's a lot of talk about digital in the industry still. I mean, you here, Mark, does it seem odd to you, sort of coming, from the generation that you do, that people still talk about digital as a separate thing, as opposed to something that should be across all the platforms?
I guess, like, from our perspective, it is changing like that. It is becoming more integrated. Obviously, there used to be, the sets in the digital department which were quite, separate. And I think, from our perspective, that Maxus is quite blended within. I think even across GroupM as well, it's quite integrated across sort of all different teams. It's not sort of that segregated department, but it's something I think like day-to-day process.
I'll stick with you for a minute, Mark. What did you actually have to do to get into the program?
There was a nomination process, so it's a self-nomination and also a nomination. So it's basically just sort of talking about yourself, and a little bit about your career and sort of your interest in digital. Obviously, being something that's quite a digital-focused program, sort of what you're interested in, sort of, and how that's impacted on your career as well.
Okay, and what does it actually entail? What do you get? What have you had a chance to do?
As part of the program?
Yeah.
Well, we've become obviously Yahoo 7 digital stars for 2014. And by doing that, we were able to attend the Mumbrella 360 conference, which was a fantastic experience. And networking with a lot of key people at Yahoo 7, just sort of getting ourselves out there, really networking, learning a lot about the industry, and the conference is a great experience to sort of learn what's going on, what's new, what's happening, and just sort of get some inside knowledge.
Okay, and obviously 360 was last week for those people who aren't aware. Where have you been? But I'll come to you, Paula, now. I mean, what did you take out from 360? What things did you learn from there?
I guess there was, an array of things that I learned. I mean, the one thing that really stuck in my mind was that advertising is no longer about, awareness. It's all about relevance now. And I guess coming from Perth, it's a little bit of a different setup, and there was so many different aspects of the industry, I guess, that I got to experience. So it really kind of opened my mind. It was really good.
Okay, and Rory, I mean, what was your sort of experience there? What did you take out from 360?
So I guess one of the key focuses that sort of happened at Mumbrella 360 was the sort of emphasis on content marketing. I think a lot of advertisers these days sort of focus on a lot of quantity, so writing blogs, writing posts, and having a consistent stream of that sort of coming through. But I think one of the key takeouts that I took was that it's not always about the quantity of content, but the quality. If you've got good quality, then it will also lead to a lot of earned media, people posting and reposting and sharing with their friends. And I think the scale that will give your brand is certainly something worth a lot of advertisers sort of hooking into. And yeah, that was probably my key takeout. And I think the key speakers that spoke about that sort of did so with such a passion that it really hit home for me, and certainly something I'll consider.
Okay, and in terms of content, it's obviously a very key sort of word. What are you guys doing there to actually, deal with content and sort of, get across it, especially in the digital space?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess there's a lot of people in the industry that are sort of stuck on their own sort of thought process when it comes to content, and they see it in a certain way where it might not be as relevant for a lot of their customers. And I think one of the quotes that came out of the conference was that advertisers should look at people as friends rather than customers, and I think moving away from that mindset will certainly help them in the long run.
And Courtney, I'll come to you here. In terms of dealing with content and so on, what are you guys doing? With content? Are you working with clients at the moment to sort of build out content? And is there a bit of tension there as well with sort of creative agencies and other agencies coming to the table to, try and offer content solutions as well?
Yeah, I think one of the points of tension is really trying to drive it away from being another TVC and towards content that really starts a conversation and is relevant to the consumer, and also making sure that there's the right balance between the brand featuring in the content and the message itself.
Yeah, and so how are you guys going about that? I guess it's you guys are sort of younger and you're seen as the digital natives, if you like. Are people sort of asking you guys for your sort of input into these things and how you're actually consuming your media?
Yeah, they definitely ask for our opinion, but we also have a specialist team at Mediacom, which we tap into a lot. So our MBA team, our Mediacom Beyond Advertising team, they're really specialists in this arena in particular, so we often get their advice in terms of content to make sure that we're steering it away from that typical brand TVC.
Okay. Paula, I'll come to you here. Do you think there's enough sort of emphasis put on sort of younger people in agencies? Do you feel that you get asked enough for your opinion on things and sort of the way you're consuming these days?
Yeah, I think I definitely get asked a lot about what do I do online? How do you experience the content, etc. But I guess over in Perth, in my industry anyway, in my company I should say, we've got a lot of people who they just don't really understand the whole online and how it works. So it's a big education process, I guess, just to get them even started. So in terms of what we learned at the 360 conference, it's a bit difficult to even get to that point because we're kind of still starting at like the beginner level. So I mean, yeah, in terms of how they see us, we're definitely a help to them. So yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. And you guys now, as part of the whole program, you had a chance to actually speak to Keith Hernandez from BuzzFeed and Amir Kazai from DDB, who were the two keynotes over the 2 days. So Isaac, I'm going to come to you here. What did you guys talk about?
Look, we talked about a lot. I guess the main thing for me was seeing different perspectives on the industry. We don't usually get exposure into the guys, the senior guys, at companies like DDB and BuzzFeed. So yeah, just to see how they see the industry going. Like social was a great thing we talked about, and how content will sort of drive the future of digital. So it was great to see just other people's perspective.
And Rory, same sort of question. Was there anything that you took out of those conversations that you got sort of beyond their keynotes that they'd given to you?
Yes, I mean it's certainly interesting. Their keynotes were the pick of the conference, I think, both of them. They provided a lot of great insights. And then having the opportunity to sit down sort of as a group with just them and ask sort of side note questions was really great. And as Isaac said, we spoke a lot about content and the concept of shareability and sort of the future of media or digital media, and I think we all got a lot out of it.
Absolutely right. Yeah, no, it's certainly interesting sort of couple of days, and I know there was a lot of talk around the future of media, from a lot of different speakers, obviously. But yeah, other than the keynotes, and maybe I'll come to you here, Courtney. What did what were the other elements that you enjoyed from the couple of days?
I enjoyed lots of the different sessions. Some of them were about technology, some of them were about social media and mobile, but I think what I really got out of it was a common theme of connections across everything. So I think conferences like this are great because you get to step back from your day-to-day and just have a think about what you do on a larger scale and how you fit into the industry. And I think that theme of connections came through, and that's something that I could apply in my day-to-day work. So that's something I got out of it.
Yeah.
And just something, again, I mean, just sort of to take a different perspective from things. We do work in digital, and it was quite a digitally focused conference. There were sort of various topics, sort of covered different topics. And for us, learning to become, these sort of digital stars, I suppose, sort of look at things from a different perspective and to think about things in a different way was really, really insightful, and just something you wouldn't get to do on a day-to-day basis. So it was really rewarding in that respect. Yeah.
Cameron, I'll come to you here. Sort of coming out of that, what do you do on a day-to-day basis to sort of stay across what's going on in the industry and what's going on beyond the industry? Because the role like you guys have, it's obviously quite important to actually have a good grasp of what's happening beyond your sort of small realms and the clients that you guys are working on.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we subscribe to a fairly big amount of blogs and different things. That can be anything ranging from, media and advertising blogs all the way through to technology. Isaac's even got a blog that I've started following now. So, interesting different little things that it doesn't have to be media or advertising related, just inspiring and ways to think differently. We've also internally at our office here in Icon Brizzy set up a Feedly link so anyone can go in, add in some interesting different content to follow, and we can discuss it every week.
So it's all about consuming then, and consuming lots of information, I guess.
Yeah.
Sort of another thing that came up from the conference and was talked about in a few different sessions was sort of industry churn, work-life balance. And I guess industry churn is especially prevalent when you're younger and you're moving around and you're trying different agencies. I mean, what's your sort of perspective on? I'll come to you, Paula, first on this one. You're over in WA there. Obviously a slightly smaller pool of agencies there than you would have in Sydney, for example. What's your sort of your thoughts on sort of how long you should stay somewhere versus before moving on or taking another opportunity? Is there sort of a perception in the industry that you should hang out for at least a year?
Well, I've heard they say that you should stay somewhere for 2 years, and if you don't get promoted up, then you should move out. So I don't know if that's real or not. I think for me, it's really important to have that work-life balance, to be able to do your work but be flexible in your hours. We've got a lot of working mums in our company over here, so I think that makes it really flexible, and I think as everyone gets along well, you kind of want to put that extra effort in. If it's a really strict environment, you're probably not going to want to stay longer or come in earlier or whatever, but because everyone sort of has that same understanding, you do want to put in the extra miles and stay within the company. So I think that's a really, really crucial point in terms of actually keeping your staff, just to make sure that they're happy. So like you said, it's a pretty small market over here, and everyone kind of knows the reputation of all the other agencies. So for me, I think, that's kind of the key. Happy staff.
Yeah, it's interesting you touched there on the on sort of working mums and sort of flexible working hours. I mean, another big bugbear for people is the lack of females in senior positions. Having those sort of people who are around who are balancing that work-life thing is helping you. And what's the company doing to sort of mentor you to sort of nurture you to take those management positions?
Yeah, well, I guess, it's still the same sort of thing, the upper levels are still more male than the females, but I guess it's all about what you want to put into it as well. I mean, if you want to move up, then you have to actually put your hand up and say, this is what I want the adequate training, I want to be in that position. So I think it's really up to you to actually say, look, this is what I want. I mean, you can't really rely on somebody to come to you and say, oh, you want to be promoted, cool, let's go do this. Like, you really need to say, this is what I want, and work towards that.
Okay. And Rory, I'll throw to you on this one, not with the female perspective, obviously, but just talking about, you're obviously in Melbourne, again, a different sort of market from either Sydney or Perth. What's your take on sort of how often people are moving around, and do you see some of your peers maybe bouncing around to a few agencies, and do you think that's good for a career?
So I think, again, everyone's different. So if you're in a work environment where you're happy and you're being given the opportunity to move up and across and on different things, then there's no reason, in my opinion, to move. I've been with Mitchell's for 2 years now, and I'm constantly given the opportunity to take part in different media. So I've worked on a bit of offline. I'm currently learning search. I'm mainly across display. And whilst the opportunity is still there to learn different things, then I'm certainly happy. Obviously, if you're in a position where you feel you're ready to take the next step, then you might have to look for opportunities elsewhere if they're kind of scarce at where your current position is. But I've had a lot of friends who have had to move for promotions. I suppose one of the benefits of being in Melbourne is that, and part of such a big company, is that there are constantly roles that are developing. You win clients, and that creates new opportunities and really opens the door for promotions and whatnot. The flexibility in our company is great, because if you want to move across onto a different client, they're always happy to accommodate that. For example, one of my main clients is the Good Guys, and I've been working on that client for 2 years, but I wanted to get across a few others, so I got the opportunity to work on a few other clients in different fields, and that's been really great for me. So again, it comes down to your personal situation and make the most of it.
So basically, sort of getting that breadth of experience across a few different clients and making sure that you're constantly learning and developing your skills. So do you guys here, Sydney, again, different kind of market. How long have you guys been with your agencies, and have you been anywhere else before? Start with you, Mark.
Been at Max's for 2.5 years now, and I was previously over at Foxtel, so it's sort of something a bit of a different sort of company. But it's interesting to see people, go around. Actually, the person who used to work at Max has sort of went away to another agency, has recently returned. So people do move around. So you should always stay friendly, never sort of leave on a bad foot, because you never know where you might end up or who you might end up working with again. So
don't burn your bridges.
Don't burn your bridges. Absolutely.
It's a good bit of recommendation there. And
yeah, we've definitely seen people return to Mediacom as well. Go leave and come back. I myself have been at Mediacom for 3 years, and I started at Mediacom and just been there ever since. So
yeah. Sort of committed to the Mediacom.
Yeah, and I think they've been good at making sure that I can reach my goals. As it was mentioned, I've also been able to change clients to make sure that I'm still growing and learning. So I think that's really important, and those needs have been met. So I didn't feel the need to move on.
And I guess we hear a lot from agencies that people are overworked, underpaid. Do you feel that the industry as a whole needs to do more to sort of address the work-life balance issue?
I think it's what you make of it, personally. Everyone does work hard. No one is going to say that they don't work hard. But I think that if you put in your work and you are dedicated to what you do, you do reap the rewards. Our industry as a whole is a reward as a company, sort of to be recognised with work. We work hard, we do play hard. So I think that there is that balance there, but I think that it's what you make of it. Don't work yourself into the ground.
And Rory, I'll throw to you here again. Agencies make a lot of culture and perks and that sort of thing. Does that make a difference to you when you're looking at where you are and sort of looking around, seeing your peers maybe at different agencies getting different perks? Well, Stop Beer Fridge is an example of that, or is there a lot more to it to what you're looking for?
No, I mean, I think culture certainly plays a big role in deciding on whether you want to stay or leave a company, agency land. So. Our company, I mean, I can speak only from my experience, but they take care of us. We do, we have events where we go out and, just relax and, have a drink with everyone and sort of get away from that, the working environment, which is really great. Publishers are really great for us as well, because they take us out for, lunches and they invite us to, cocktail events and these sort of things. And it's sort of a perk that you don't really think about going into the industry, but once you're in there, it sort of makes up. So, you know, sometimes you might do long hours and some late nights and early mornings, but, you know, at the end of the day, you might have gone out for lunch a couple of times, or, you know, there's plenty of events that go on, and certainly a lot of socialising. This being a prime example, going to Mumbrella 360 with the Yahoo Digital Stars. So there's certainly a lot of opportunity to do that sort of thing, and that certainly makes the culture great within agency land.
And are you paid enough for what you do?
That's a contentious issue, but yeah, I mean, like, if you're good at your job, then you'll get promoted and you'll get paid more, is the bottom line. So the short answer is yes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it'd be remiss not to speak to Isaac at this point, who even during the process here has gone from PhD to client side at Sunbeam. You know, what's driven you there, and would you come back to the media industry, or now you're client side? Is it much different?
Yeah, from a culture perspective, it is very different to working in agency world. I guess, like, I heard somewhere that the key drivers for keeping people, well, like the key drivers of motivation is about value, specialty, and the ability to work autonomously. So it doesn't actually consider wages, which I think is great. So as long as you sort of tick all those three boxes, I kind of feel that that's the best way to keep people. My decision to leave was about opportunity. Like, I have a background in sort of like film and multimedia, and I was able to sort of explore that areas, I guess, more than working in agency. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'll consider going back to later in life. I loved my time at PhD. They have a tremendous culture and a great view on the industry and where it's going. So yeah.
I'm sure Toby and Chris will be pleased to hear that. And just going back to you quickly, Isaac. You know, is it really quite cushy over on client side there, like many people think?
Look, I haven't been here long, but I'm really enjoying it. It's they're really helping out with the work-life balance, and I guess it's kind of refreshing to have a bit more maturity as well. Yeah, working with the older bunch of people, and yeah, having some impact on I guess, like client decisions and the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a different challenge, I guess, completely. Back to Paula just for a moment. We had a question in earlier on from someone on the website who said, given that the industry is dominated by those under 35, do you see yourselves as having the opportunity of still being in the industry in your 30s and beyond? You know, do you see this as a sort of a long-term career here, or do you think you might follow in Isaac's footsteps and eventually move client side?
Really difficult to say, I think. I mean, in a lot of cases, again, being female, you know, at what point do you go and have kids, etc., that kind of thing. So I guess that kind of maybe limits you to move past that age of 35, whereas I guess men are most likely to continue on. But I mean, if that's what you want, and you want to be, you know, want to work towards that career, then I don't see why not. In terms of moving, you know, creative side, client side, there's always the opportunity. I guess my passion isn't, I guess, limited to just media, like advertising as a whole, and I guess that's one thing I kind of learned at the Mumbrella 360 conference, was that it's not just about like the individual agencies, it's about, I guess, the holistic view of it. So, you know, if the opportunity presented itself, then I wouldn't just say no, you know, I'd definitely consider it. So, but yeah, definitely, I don't think you shouldn't be able to go past that 35, age of 35, no.
And Cameron, same question to you.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as a lot of the guys, looking to get a holistic view of everything. So as much as I love media and agency side, one day, who knows, you know, Tourism Australia or something to work for a client like that, I think would be pretty cool. Certainly saw some pretty inspiring speakers speaking for those guys. And also, you know, just little things like creative agency, like who knows where media and agencies will end up, you know, 10 years down the track. So if they ever do come back together, you know, getting on the creative side even, that'd be quite interesting.
Yeah. Okay, here's a question for you, and I'm going to ask you all this just to sort of wrap up. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
Good question.
Where would you like to be?
Oh, gee. I guess I'd just like to be happy in whatever I'm doing. That's the main thing. And we talk about work-life balance. I just want to have that balance right. So whether that is agency side or not, that's where I want to be.
Yeah. Paula, we'll come to you. Same question.
Ideally, I would love to be able to work, manage, own a full-service agency, so offering everything in one location, I guess.
Yeah. So you're seeing full service as definitely the way forward then for the industry?
I think so, and I think that's how I would like to work. I would like to be across everything. I hate sometimes the fact that, you know, there's so much information missing when you get to the media side, the creative, it's already been decided, and you just have to, I don't know, put ones in boxes, I guess. So it does happen like that. So that's kind of why I'd like to see that whole sort of holistic approach to tackling clients' needs.
Yeah. Rory, same question to you.
Yeah, certainly thinking working on a brand that I'm passionate about and that I believe in. So whether that's client side or from agency land, but certainly having an influence on the direction of that brand, I think would be the most important thing for me.
Yeah, and Isaac?
In 10 years, I would like to own something, so whether it be a small little agency with a small team of people, or a piece of technology, or a website, or something like that. Who knows what's going to happen in 10 years, but hopefully I will own some of it.
You think you might go startup side at some point then? You might, you know, go out on your own. Is that appealing?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think I'll need to do a bit more learning before I take that step. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'll come back to the studio to finish off. Courtney?
Honestly, I have no idea. So 4 years ago, before I started in media, I had no idea what a job in media entailed. So I hope to just keep learning, and I think that it's really exciting that I don't know where I'll be in 10 years.
Do you think your role that you're in now, obviously, hopefully not to be necessarily in that role of advance, but do you think that role will have still exist, or do you think that
I honestly don't know. I mean, going to some of the talks about programmatic buying and also just the changes even in other media channels, I honestly don't know if it'll exist in its current form. So yeah, no, I'll wait and find out.
And Mark, get the final word here.
Final word, wow. I agree with Paula, actually. I think that full service is not too far away, and I feel that, you know, once we become, you know, all together again, you know, that attention
So you don't agree with Robert Morgan when he says you never get the best when you go full service?
I think it's worth a shot. It's been done before. Let's give it another shot again.
Interesting. Well, on that note, I think we're going to have to wrap up, but I want to thank everyone for joining me today. It's been very interesting and very entertaining, and we'll see you next time we have a Hangout. Thanks very much.